Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Pfeiffer. I'm the founder and CEO of Supplier Community, and we are here for another session that we like to call Conversations on Retail. And today we are with our friend Allan Peretz, who's the president of Bold Strategies. And we're going to spend a little bit of time getting to know Allan and what it is that makes him unique as a human being. I think a lot of us over the last couple of years, especially, have followed his career, particularly from Bold Strategies forward. But Allan's really got an interesting backstory, and we're going to learn more about him today. So Allan, thank you so much for joining us and for making this time.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really been looking forward to this. And as I mentioned, during our back and forth, I kind of put some questions out there and you provided a few notes. And the more I read, the more excited I became about this conversation, because you've got a really interesting background. And I'd like to go start at the very, very beginning. I like to talk to people about, where they grew up. What were your earliest influences and the experiences that you had as a young man that would shape you into the human being that you are today, and certainly as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, most people don't know this, but I actually grew up in Montreal, Canada. I was a little French-Canadian kid before I learned English. And my mom was French-Canadian. My father was American, so I'm a dual citizen. I get to carry 2 passports, which is a nice little perk. But Montreal was a great place to grow up, and I had a lot of influences at school, at home. One of the biggest ones was my Uncle Pierre, who's still with us. And Uncle Pierre is an artist. He taught me a lot about appreciating aesthetics and music and other things. And he also was very cool because he was probably the one adult in my life who spoke to me as a peer, even though I was a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, throughout that time. He also taught me a lot about the outdoors. So we would go camping. My parents were more kind of city people, but Pierre was definitely an outdoorsy kind of guy. And he taught me a lot of skills that I still use today. I spent a lot of time out in the woods. Another big influence later down the road was the U.S. Army. I've kept my hair short ever since. I spent 8 years involved with the military, 2 active, 6 reserve, and was in the first Gulf War. It left a big impression on me, the whole experience beginning to end. I didn't have a lot of discipline. Traditional discipline is defined going into it. But it really taught me a lot, and it stuck with me. I also learned a lot about dealing with stress and being in situations that are, either have conflict or uncertainty, and that's helped me throughout the years as well.
Yeah, what drove that decision to enlist?
Yeah, so I enlisted and then later became an officer. I think, I was interested in the experience of being in the military, and it was one of those things where, I felt like I would never truly understand it unless I did it myself. But also, at the time I had started dabbling in college, and honestly, it wasn't really a place where I was sure that I'd found my direction yet. So going into the Army, like a lot of people do, was a good place to really learn some fundamental skills. And then I came back and did college, graduate school, and all the rest.
Okay. I'm curious about the role of faith, of work, of volunteerism, of sports. What were some of the activities you were involved in as a boy that, again, would shape you into the man you would become, and the things you would pursue?
Yeah, well, I grew up in the 80s, and I was really what you would call a computer nerd back then, although I guess we're all computer nerds today. But I spent a lot of time hanging around the computer store and playing with the equipment they had on hand. They would let me hang out because it basically showed other people coming in that these things were really easy if this kid could master them. Later, I had a computer of my own and brought that home. It was a Commodore 64, if any of you remember that. And I got so into it that I ended up teaching BASIC and Logo at the YMCA locally. I've continued to be really deep into technology. It's always been a hobby for me. So I build a lot of things at home, and I even in business, I like to get my hands very deep into the technical parts of the work and really understand what's happening behind the scenes. I'm not a big fan of black boxes. I like to really understand how things work and why they deliver the results they do.
So how did you end up at Procter & Gamble? I know you enjoyed a long career there, 14 years and lots of assignments and service abroad, and touched a lot of cool brands. But how did you end up there?
Yeah, so I pursued an MBA sometime after getting my undergraduate degree, and P&G did recruit at my university, but only in information technology. And I had a strong background in information technology. I've done some roles previously at small accounting firms and whatnot. And I was able to parlay that into an entry at P&G. And just a few years down the road, I discovered that brand management was really where I wanted to be, and spoke to some people, some of whom are still mentors today, and eventually got moved into the brand management function, which was really great. And that's where I stuck the rest of my career. There's various highlights in my time there. In fact, lots of highlights. There was probably a highlight every year. But really the most formative one for me from a business standpoint was spending 3 years abroad. So I'd been working fabric softeners in the US, and they needed someone to really kick off a consolidated fabric softener strategy in Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I managed to get the role. And it was wonderful in many ways. First of all, I traveled a lot, so more than half the time I was going, Romania, Ukraine, Morocco, and sometimes I would do all three in a week. But the more important thing was a lot of what I'd gotten used to as a support structure in the U.S. was pulled away from me, in particular data. So I'd gotten used to having data to help me guide every decision I made in the U.S. And I didn't have that in CEMEA, so I had to really rely on my gut. And that was hard at first, but really, it ended up working, and I became much more confident as a marketer as a result. In terms of where I am today, probably the most relevant experience at P&G was the opportunity to lead their global direct-to-consumer business. So that was the U.S., China, and Germany. Oral-B, SK2, Braun, and all the rest. And that was a wonderful experience. It was very political. That was the part that I didn't like quite as much. But in terms of learning the complexities of e-commerce and what it takes to actually deliver, which is a lot, it really stuck with me and made me very interested in continuing in that space.
And while you were learning and practicing e-commerce with Procter Gamble, your wife Lisa was also tinkering with e-commerce, and the stories of your two experiences would eventually come together. But talk a little bit about her and some of her early tinkering.
Yeah, well, Lisa's also my co-founder, and she continues to work in the business today. So she leads our products division. So we make and sell products online. Primarily employee appreciation gifts. But when I was at Procter, she was into eBay, so she would do a lot of retail arbitrage. She would go and buy things and resell them for a little extra vacation money and that kind of stuff. And then a little bit later, before I went into Bold full time, she'd actually started developing her own products. So working with factories overseas, importing the product. At the time we were packing every box on the living room floor. So I still have very vivid memories of that. And she got that successful enough to where I felt confident that I could leave my job and come into Bold and start a consulting division, which we did. We thought it was a really cool mix to have both a products division and a consulting division, because as consultants, getting your hands dirty, firsthand and setting up the back office gives you a lot more credibility than people who've only advised on that before. So we continue to sell products today. In fact, we're expanding the products business, and she's in charge.
So as you and she were learning e-commerce and begin to kind of have these conversations about what Bold would eventually become, what was your original vision for the business, and what was the gap in the marketplace you wanted to address, and your perceived competitive advantage?
Yeah, we started out wanting to help the really small entrepreneur succeed online and succeed across channels, so succeed in their own stores, succeed on Amazon, Walmart, if that made sense. And we pursued that for probably the first 6 months that I started working in the company. What we discovered really quickly was financially, it was very hard to find a solution that worked both for these types of companies and for Bold. So we expanded our vision. We didn't walk away from the small entrepreneur. We kept them in the mix, but we started adding mid-sized companies and also some services for large-sized companies. The vision really was influenced by those early days, and it's still the vision we have today. We want to be an extreme end-to-end service provider. And what I mean by that is we will provide you everything you need to succeed online, from market assessment to strategy to setting up your supply chain, setting up your content and your marketing, and of course, analytics. And we've stuck with that. And it's a really great model because it eliminates a pain point for brands of any size in having to work with so many parties externally today. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
So, I think from a passion standpoint, it's great for our team that we still work with the really small companies. It's always inspiring and fun to help an entrepreneur achieve success. And even as we work with the big Fortune 100 companies, that's always a highlight of my day.
Yeah, I know that from an entrepreneur's perspective, there are some that would quit their job on Friday and start their new business on Saturday. My approach was very different. It took me a full year. Once I had my business plan, it took me a full year to transition out of a corporate gig into full-time business ownership. What did your decision look like? How long did you contemplate it? And what was ultimately what influenced your decision to go for it? How long did it take you to decide to do it? And then what ultimately made you decide now's the right time?
Yeah. Well, like you said, and I don't know if this is a common time horizon. It took me about a year in total, but I really got serious in the last 6 months. And getting serious meant, testing my proposition with people who I knew and asking them if this was something that would interest them. It meant setting up some financial support so we could kind of weather the storm for the initial period. And just, as you said, working up my confidence. So for me, after 6 months of really obsessing about this and writing plans and talking to people, I felt comfortable doing it. We knew there was risk, and there still is risk, but we thought that we'd be okay.
Yeah. Well, and I know we've got a common friend in Jeff Amrine and his family and the work that they've done at Startup Junkie. I'd love to kind of hear about your interaction with them and the role that they have played in helping you to kind of jumpstart things.
Yeah, they've been great supporters and advisors throughout. And while I was exploring that decision to leave work and join the company that my wife started, I attended a lot of their events. And really, what they did is they gave me confidence that there is a support structure here. There are people I can talk to. There are local investors who can advise me in different ways. And I probably wouldn't have jumped if it hadn't been for them.
And when you did finally start, what were the first months and even the first year like? Was it smooth sailing? I know when I started my first business, and I don't know why it worked out this way, but the first year, frankly, was the easiest. And then it was the growing pains that followed that created the most challenges. But what were the early months and the first year like for you?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely not the easiest. It was the hardest. Maybe another harder year is yet to come. But the first year was really hard, and the main reason is I had a certain amount of credibility as a professional, but it didn't really rub off on my business. And without a track record in this business, it was hard to get people to take a chance. Obviously, over time, you find someone who's willing to take the risk, and you start building a track record, and things pick up from there. But the first year, the selling was very, very, very difficult, especially since I was a one-man show. About 6 to 9 months, I don't remember exactly when, into that journey, we did have enough business to hire our first employee, and she was great, by the way. That's really when this felt real to me, and it felt like we really had good traction.
So you started the business at the very, very, very end of 2017, beginning of 2018. How has the business evolved since you started? What were the most significant ways that the business has changed since you launched?
Yeah, it's definitely grown a lot, both as a business and in terms of employees. So we're up to about 30 people now. And the way it changes is you start moving from being a jack of all trades to having people who are really experts with a lot of depth in different topics. So as we grow, we continue to get better as we bring in new specializations and functions, and that's really it. So it's bigger and better. It would be my 2 words, and easier in the sense that now I really do spend a fair amount of time focused on envisioning what the future can look like, and some time actually in the business, hands-on as well.
I had a conversation with Bill Weitzman from One Stone last week, who's a fan of yours, a friend of yours, and had very complimentary things to say about your business. But he made it clear that you guys do things differently from one another. And I'm just curious what Bold has gotten right that maybe others in the space, and it's becoming a more and more crowded space. But what has your team gotten right that maybe the others have missed?
Yeah, Bill and his team are really great, by the way, and Bill and I meet periodically and talk shop. So he is a good friend. So two things that I think are really different for us are, as I already mentioned, that extreme end-to-end service. So you could be sitting in Colombia or England or anywhere in the world, and you can have us manage your entire US-based e-commerce business with just a weekly coordination call. So you don't need boots on the ground. We provide all of that, and through our partners, we're able to build really complete solutions. The other choice we've made, and it's an expensive choice, is we've brought in and we continue to hire new brand people because we want people in the business who understand brand management, brand strategy, strategic creative. So that's a big part of the mix of talent we have on our team, and it allows us to really understand the intent of the client, who often comes from the same background, and to deliver work in the way that they would expect. It's not a claim that any other e-commerce agency I'm aware of can make.
Yeah. I mean, I know in the brokerage world, there's a lot of folks that don't want to mess with the first, let's say, 18 months, because that's where a lot of really, really tough work, all the grinding takes place then until you create, momentum, and it becomes a little bit easier to manage. But you guys are really a partner at the very, very beginning.
Yeah, and we love that part of the client's journey. And you just, after you've done it so many times, you just learn so many things that can be helpful to a company. And it's easy to undervalue all that experience, but we see it. We see it every time we bring on a new client.
Yeah, I'd like to talk for a few minutes about what were some of your missteps, maybe the closest you came to outright failure. Were there times you wondered if you made the wrong decision, and what's the closest that you ever come to saying this is just not for us, we need to go do something else?
Yeah, so we talked about talent and expensive talent and bringing that into your team. And I would say in the months before COVID, before we ever knew that was going to be a thing, we did invest probably too much in bringing on new team members. We invested well ahead of revenue, and we thought things would continue to be as they were. And of course, like every optimistic entrepreneur, I didn't envision a downside situation or black swan event or whatever you want to call it. But of course that hit us, and we found ourselves a little bit overextended, in the first quarter and a half of 2020. We were able to resolve that. So we did take on a little bit of investment to help us through that period. And as a result, we didn't have to lay anybody off, which I'm very, very glad about. But it was a rocky period, and in terms of days where I feel like throwing in the towel, I don't think I've had one yet. We've made our lifetime big bet on this, and we're in it no matter what. It has to succeed. So I'm motivated every morning to get closer to that.
Yeah, without going into any detail, I'm curious about the source of capitalization. Was it local money? Was it out of town institutional money? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so 75%, including Lisa and I, is family and friends, and 25% is other entities that had a complementary business model.
Okay, that's great. So what's new and next for your team? What does 2021 look like that would be different from the I guess the 2 years past, 3 years past?
Yeah, the thing that we really tackled hard in our early years was Amazon. We knew quite a bit about Walmart. We're mostly Bentonville local people, but we'd also built a great playbook for Amazon, and we exploited that, and it was probably 80% of our business. What's happened in the last year, especially post-COVID, is DTC has started to ascend as well, and people are getting more interested and more risk tolerant when it comes to direct to consumer. So we're doing a lot of website work today. We're doing a lot of consumer acquisition work. And when you put that together with Amazon and Walmart and everything else, it starts to form a really nice, compelling all-in-one solution for our clients.
You said before you and Lisa are all in with this business, and I get that. But do you think that you and she have another startup in you at some point, or do you really feel like this is your capstone project?
No, this is it. I mean, we are in it to win it, and we are going to make this work. Our goal is very simple. We want to be the company that people aspire to work with in the e-commerce space. And until we get there, we're not stopping.
So in terms of trends, and I've just got a few things written down, so forgive me for reading to you, but we're seeing an unprecedented acceleration of change in terms of how consumers are shopping and how they're purchasing. Walmart Plus has absolutely changed life for our family. Grocery delivery, I mean, is saving us so much time. I'd pay anything to win that time back and not have to go into stores. What are you learning from your engagements with brands and shoppers that provide some clues as to what's ahead?
Yeah. Right now, we're focused really heavily on a few things, but the two that come to mind, first and foremost, are video. And video has been around, of course, on the internet for a long time, but it's playing a much bigger role today. So not only on item pages and in ads, but live video and live shopping experiences are also becoming a big thing on the internet. Amazon's launched Amazon Live. There are other opportunities out there to create video content that is shoppable, and we think that's going to continue to gain a lot of traction. The second really big one is retail media and how it's evolving. So Amazon is best known in this space. They've built a gigantic business and a business that allegedly is very, very profitable. But following right behind them is Walmart and Kroger and many others who are also making their product more sophisticated. And now brands are starting to aggregate all of that together into a field called retail media, but they're having a hard time figuring out who owns that, how to allocate funds within that, what success looks like. So those are big questions that we're helping clients answer today.
Well, the consumer is clearly the biggest winner right now, but how are retailers and consumer product companies capitalizing on this acceleration of adoption we're seeing where shoppers are willing to try new things, be it in the area of pickup, delivery, other innovations?
Yep. So last year, as many people on the call know, there was about a 5-year acceleration of e-commerce. Who knows if it's going to stick, but the proportion of sales that go through the e-commerce channel is much bigger than it's ever been. And I would say it's not a capitalization question, but it's a survival imperative. So companies who really had put this on the back burner for years are calling us now, and they're real serious because they have to be. And for me, that's the biggest change.
Back to your business, what's the most exciting capability that your team has that few people would know about?
Yeah, well, I've already talked about the people a lot, so I'll talk a little bit about technology. We've been building and evolving our own dashboard. It's called Bold Focus. And just as we're a multi-channel organization, Focus is a multi-channel dashboard that includes the retail channels that we consider priorities, but also includes media, project management, and other things. So we've rolled out Focus across our clients today. We're getting ready for version 2, and it's going to continue to be a big part of our business because it's been very successful.
I didn't mention this question before, but it just occurred to me to ask: is 100% of your business fee-based, or have you ever been persuaded to take equity in a venture that you thought was really exciting and where you were just willing to roll up your sleeves and sweat with the founder and try to create something together? And if you're not doing that today, do you think that might be in your future?
Yep. We experimented with a lot of different models early on, and the model that was most common in our early days was the base fee plus sales commission model, or sales commission after a certain threshold has been met. We've actually moved away from that. We are trying for the ultimate in transparency. And again, since we want to be a replacement for in-house e-commerce resources, we charge a flat fee that's the same every single month. And that fee buys you your team. If our team has to work an extra 10 or 100 hours in July, you're not going to get billed for that. It's still the same flat fee. So we are truly trying to be an outsourcing company in the sense that we offer a predictable cost that doesn't change, and no extras. And in addition, we've also taken a lot of the weird stuff out of advertising, so we don't take any commissions on any media. Everything is what you see is what you get. You're paying us one fee for work, and that's the whole model.
If you weren't all in with Bold, what business would you be starting right now? Or what industries or even specific startup companies are you keeping a close eye on?
Yeah. Well, I've learned in this business and before this business that it's a better time than ever to launch a new product. The amount of access that people have to consumers is really it's never before existed. So I would be launching products. I'd probably look at some of the categories that I know really well, like personal care and household care, and be looking at opportunities in those spaces.
Beyond your professional and entrepreneurial careers, who are you and how do you want to be known and remembered?
Yep. I've talked a little bit about my formative experiences, and I think more than anything, I'd like to be remembered as a good coach, a good coach to employees, to friends, to other people in my life, people who are coming up at other companies. And I'd also like to be remembered as someone who's comfortable with risk, not only my own risk, but also the risk that my team members take. I try to give people a lot of rope so they can experiment like I had the chance to do. And that's part of what I'd like to be remembered for too.
What are you the most proud of and what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, so most proud is every new person who comes on the team is really special, and I'm just always surprised at the type of talent that's now joining this venture that once was only a dream. In terms of keeping me up at night, definitely competition. There's a lot of companies coming in behind us, who are brand new, who have a different point of view, and I want to make sure that I'm not only as good as they are, but I'm as good as the big guys too. So it's a complex space, a very dynamic space, and you really have to understand who's around you.
What have you yet to accomplish in any aspect of your life that motivates you to keep playing the game hard?
Yeah, as far as it pertains to the business, I want to build a business that can live without me. So that's my goal. When I've accomplished that, I think I'll definitely have made it. In terms of life, I spend time on adventures with my families, going to weird and exotic places. I want to continue to make time for those types of activities. They've been really enriching, and hopefully they'll help my kids in life as well. So just maintaining that balance and really seeing a lot.
The world is changing so quickly. It seems to be accelerating more and more every day, and in so many different ways. What advice would you give to your children or grandchildren concerning the world that they're about to inherit?
They'd probably say I've given them too much advice already, so don't ask them. But the biggest and best advice that I have for anyone is don't burn any bridges, personally or professionally. It's amazing how many people I'm working with today who I've worked with in other parts of my career or other parts of my life. People come back, the good ones come back, and eventually you have the opportunity to choose who you want to work with, which is really great. So you have to always be careful that you preserve those relationships for the long term because they will be valuable later.
What's been the one thing in life that has best prepared and or sustained you for this journey?
Mentors, and I've got a lot of them. I've got a lot of people who I call. They're kind of topic specific. So I've got people who I call with leadership questions. I've got people who I call with business questions. People who I call with functional marketing questions. But having that big network of people to tap into, or people who just are willing to listen to you, is really, really important, and it's helped me.
One more question, and then I'll give you the last word. Has it been fun? I know that the journey for any entrepreneur, at least for most of us, there's great days and there's awful days, and mostly a lot of days in between. But has it been fun?
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun. for a couple of reasons. Number one, I love the creativity of starting a business from nothing. We didn't have a brand, we didn't have a logo, we didn't have a vision, we didn't have values, and getting the opportunity to look at what's best out there and to bring that inspiration into something that you're leading is really, really amazing. I think the other thing is I just get to meet so many cool people, other entrepreneurs, other people in big companies, other peers from competitive companies, and more than ever, I'm getting exposed to a wide swath of the business world, and that really energizes me.
Allan Peretz, co-founder and president of Bold Strategies. It has been so much fun getting to know you better. I appreciate you making the time and look forward to seeing you and your team and your family continue to do well.
I really appreciate it, and thanks so much for the opportunity.
Have a great day.
You too.